I'll find it. Welcome to the second episode, the second installment of Dark Sessions. Thank you for joining, and thank you for listening. Today, we are going to be talking about what tech do you need to get started? Do you need good tech to get started? Do you need to go full-on XLR mic like some of us here? Or can you just, start out with a cell phone? Or, maybe something else?
See,
So,
all right, man. It's this simple. All you need is a cell phone. All right, episode's over. Okay, guys. Thanks for coming. That's really about it. I don't really know how to add on to that. Like, you got a cell phone, you got everything you need. Hope you guys have a great night.
Cheers.
I feel like there's so much to talk about when it comes to equipment, right? Like, I think it all depends on how you want to start because you got to think you're making videos for YouTube. And it's not like you're doing an audition. It's not like you have to send some extravagant product off to somebody and have them be like, "Oh yeah, you forgot the equalizer, you forgot this. Oh no." Like, no, it's YouTube. It's your channel. You can do with what you want. Um, I think there's nothing wrong with starting off like with nothing but a cell phone, in my personal opinion.
that's great, but before we get there, okay?
Oh,
Before
I
we
thought
get
we
there,
were just hopping right into. Okay, all
we
right,
were
all right.
so close to hopping in there, but I have to introduce us,
Oh yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
important.
right?
Yeah, we should probably do that.
People are going to be sitting here being like, who are these nerds? So I don't want that. Anyways, I am your host, the wonderful and glorious Stories After Midnight, as you now know. I'm joined by my co-host, Slumber Reads. Thank you, Slumber, again for doing this. I'm sure I'll thank you
Hey,
every
no
episode. So
problem, man.
just shrug it off, whatever you want to do. But today is a very special episode. For our second episode, we are joined by the one, the only, Margbot. So thank you, Margbot, for joining us.
Yay! Of course. No, thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm so sorry if there are typing noises at the beginning of this. I was actually tweeting out this episode. So,
Oh,
you know.
all is forgiven.
Yes, I apologize.
Do you want to shout out your channel real quick? Where could people find you?
Sure. So you can find me under Margbot, which YouTube tends to autocorrect to Margot. So Margbot, Margbot. If you guys just want to look it up, check it out. I do interviews. I've done many interviews, Stories After Midnight included. Hopefully, at some point, maybe Slumber Reads if he allows me to.
Oh.
And I also do some narrations, true and fictional. So if you're into that sort of thing, please feel free to check it out.
There you go. You can't not do it now, Slumber.
No,
you-
no pressure.
You've just been
would've been
asked
down
on a
either way,
live
but-
stream, dude.
But now, now that there's pressure,
You know what? Let's just take an
cool
hour.
and be like, Margbot, I know like you've interviewed some of the biggest in the game, but like I got a busy schedule and I don't know if they'll ever line up. But like
I
if
respect
they
that.
can,
I
like
respect that.
I'm sure we could line something up, down the road when
My
when
people
my
will
very
contact your
busy
people.
schedule and very important life, slows down and
Your very important life. When I take my dog for a walk and when I get back from making my chai tea latte.
And then I record stories until I fall asleep and wake up and do the same thing. It's like it's very, very draining. No, yeah, I'd definitely be down.
Well, there we go. See, I knew there was a reason I
Hooray.
started this podcast.
Oh my gosh, this is I feel so bad now. I did not mean to put you. I am so sorry.
This
So-
was
I'm
the
just-
this
I'm
was
just
the
gonna
end
get
game.
trapped.
Do the entire thing. Anyways,
So I already dropped the
So-
ball by giving out my opinion, and the end game is already done. So like, I don't know what else we can.
this is going great. This
Yeah,
is
let's talk
going
about the
great.
virus instead. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh boy.
Um,
All right, let's steer this ship. And
yes, please do.
no, so today, as I said, we're going to talk about tech that you, I want to put in air quotes, need to get started as a narration channel. I think there are limits to what you can start with. For example, I don't think anyone should start with a smartphone. Let's be real.
Start
with
with a smartphone.
No, don't start with
Okay.
a smartphone.
Start with a smartphone.
Okay,
All
so
right.
don't
Smartphone.
start with a smartphone. Change my mind.
Here, I will tell
Here's-
you exactly why. Okay. Actually, no. I'll let Margbot go.
Oh, what a
Sorry.
gentleman.
So it's part of the growing process. I feel like you have to walk before you can run, and I've noticed that this mentality of people thinking that they should start out with an XLR mic has driven to some to actually post GoFundMe's about how, they don't even have a channel and they're trying to raise money to buy, a $300 mic. And it's kind of like, well, you haven't even tried this yet. So how do you know that this $300 isn't going to go to waste? Which I'm not saying is the case every time. And I know you started off with an XLR mic, Stories After Midnight, but you had the money for it and you splurged on it. It's just not right to assume that you need this right off the bat or that you should start with this right off the bat, because who knows, maybe you're going to end up hating this and you're going to end up either wasting the money of people on GoFundMe or, your own money. And also, I'm sorry to break it to you guys, but the quality of your mic only takes you so far. There are a lot of people in this community that just, unfortunately, it still sounds like they're recording from their iPhone, but you know what? Their voice and their style has gotten them, where they are, which is like huge channels. That's just my thought process.
I couldn't agree more. See, this has always been my thought process, right? So when I started, I had nothing but an Android smartphone. I don't even know if you could call it a smartphone. The thing was a piece of junk. Like, it was too outdated to even get any apps on it at all. Period.
Okay.
So I couldn't even like try and edit the audio from my phone or anything. And not only that, but the phone was so bad that I couldn't make phone calls on it because the mic didn't work. But if I tried to record through a recording app, it would record on one side. That's how bad this phone was.
When you say one side, like you mean one side of the phone or like mono channel type thing?
It would record in stereo automatically and only be on the left side.
Gotcha.
So I don't know why that was. It just is what it was. But I also got my computer. It was a desktop computer. Okay, this is a true story. This is how I got it. I was walking down Main Street, and it was raining out. I was walking home, and there was a desktop computer sitting on the curb with a free sign on it that was melting in the rain. And
Oh my gosh.
I grabbed it and took it home, dried it off, and used that for like the first 2 years of my YouTube channel. This computer was so slow, it couldn't even run a YouTube video.
Oh,
But
wow.
I was able to get an editing software on it, and as long as I gave it 12 hours to render a 20-minute video, it would render them just fine. So my setup was that Android phone, which the only way I could get it to sound good was if I recorded in my truck, because the bedroom acoustics would be way too echoey. And the whole entire duration that I used that phone, nobody ever complained. I got to 12,000 subscribers with that cell phone before I ever bought my first USB mic.
That's pretty solid for a cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's creators, I don't know if I'm really allowed to say it. I don't think they would mind, but there's creators out there right now that are almost at like 100K that still use their cell phones.
You're
And you would
joking.
never know. You would
Like
never know.
YouTube and not like Anchor or something like that?
Yeah, YouTube. YouTube.
Wow.
Yep.
I would never have thought that though,
Yeah,
because
see, we know the background stories.
you guys,
But
you started out.
adding on to what Margbot said, like if you want to get a microphone, I think the best route to go is if say you're into like gaming, right? And you're thinking about getting a mic for gaming anyway, just get like a snowball, you know? And then if you don't like narration, you can still use that snowball to talk to your friends on Discord and all that good stuff. So then it's not a total loss. I think, jumping right into it and putting up foam on your walls and a rug on the ground and spending $300, $400 on an XLR mic. If quality means a lot to you, it's something you can do down the road. Just make sure you like it first.
I can agree with that.
I mean, I didn't get my first XLR mic until what, like a month ago.
I mean, I still don't have an XLR mic, and I don't know when I will. I'm still running on my Blue Yeti, and to add to what I said earlier, I actually feel like the fact that I've known the struggle has made this so much more meaningful for me, because I remember when I first got the Blue Yeti, they actually didn't have a Blue Yeti available for a while I was waiting for it. It didn't make sense to me because I mean that's their name, Blue, but they didn't have a blue colored mic. So I looked around for a couple months and finally it came out. And I just remember, picking it up at the store and just opening it up. It was special to me. And yeah, that's another reason why I don't think people should necessarily start off with an XLR mic.
Well, hey, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I'm not saying start off with an XLR mic. I only got what I got because I used it a lot playing games and stuff like that. I started out with a Blue Yeti, and I used that for a while. I don't know if I recorded a story with it. To be honest, I don't think I did, but I knew that, like, for me, I wanted to start the channel off on what I thought was not, I'm going to say right foot, but that's not necessarily what I mean. Like, to start with something that was like solid in my eyes. It's been a pain most of the time, some of the time.
So that being said, and I'm gonna sound like a total hypocrite now. I shared this on the interview with Stories After Midnight, so he knows this story. But the one who got me started with this whole narration thing, or introduced me to the community initially, was my little sister, and she actually has a channel of her own. And me and her both started out with iPhones recording. Well, recently she's been trying to make a comeback to the game, and I told her, I said, look, if you're gonna make a comeback to this, you cannot be recording on your iPhone. Like I helped her get a snowball, because I didn't want her recording on her phone. But I know quality is important, but I feel like for personal artistic development, that maybe one should struggle a little bit beforehand.
Well, I don't think it's wrong to suggest something like that. To start out with a cell phone, you kind of run that chance that people might not listen because of the quality, but maybe you have good quality. But I
I
think
think I think something a lot of people overlook. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. A lot of your sound quality isn't so much the mic or what you're recording on; it's the acoustics around you. And I think that's something that a lot of people overshoot, right? Like my phone
Yeah.
quality wasn't that bad as long as I recorded in my Dodge Dakota. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it was fine. It was fine. Like, it was when I switched over to my AT2020 USB when I finally got that, the difference wasn't very noticeable. Um, and then, when I finally got that USB mic, I was already aware of, all of the equalization and the noise reduction and the compressor and the de-esser and all of
Oh,
that
that's
good stuff
awesome.
because my phone quality just wasn't that great. So like there was so much things I had to do in post. So like I really learned how to edit audio. And now that, I'm not trying to like float my own boat, but now that I have an XLR mic, I feel like I'm using it to the best of its ability. Minus the fact that my recording environment isn't very good. I have hardwood floors, tall ceilings. I'm in the
Oh
corner of a
goodness.
room. Like it's pretty bad until I, edit it all down. But like I know how to take out reverb. I know how to take out all of the echo, all of the background noise, and I don't think I would be that far ahead if I didn't have to struggle with a bad mic first.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing that people don't take into account when they're considering what they're recording with is, like you said earlier, there are people out there with 100K that are still recording on their phones, but they sound, you wouldn't tell because they know they're editing. So now more for the editing, it's kind of like if you know how to edit, you can make, you know, pretty much a broken down Android sound great if you know how to do editing. But then you have people who have these really expensive mics and they don't know how to edit, and it shows. I mean, I wonder sometimes because I obviously on Twitter you see people post, oh, I just got so and so mic and it cost me like $500. But then you hear their audio and you're like, you are doing something wrong
Well,
because
yeah,
it
I
doesn't
mean,
sound like an expensive mic.
yeah, like it's like my stock audio even on this XLR sounds terrible. It's so echoey. The noise floor on this thing is pretty good, so like there's not a whole lot of background noise, but it's so unbelievably echoey and so flat. Stock audio on this definitely sounds 10 times worse than edited audio on my USB mic. So, it's just something people need to keep in mind. Like, if you know how to edit audio and if you're in a decent environment, you will get so much further with a low end mic than you ever will with a high end mic not knowing how to do anything.
Yeah, I agree.
So it sounds like you would put your editing skills over necessarily the kind of mic that you have.
Absolutely. Every day of the week. That's exactly what I'm saying.
To an
Now,
extent.
Mark, you said to your sister to not use a cell phone. Why, knowing where you came from and kind of how you started and your passion about this subject, did you suggest that for her rather than say, "Hey, give cell phone a try if that's what you can do"? Why did you
Be-
suggest a Yeti or not a Yeti, a Snowball?
so the reason I did that is because she did come from a cell phone. She started her channel back when I did, about 5 or 6 years ago, and she did have that struggle. But now I kind of wanted her to move along, and trying to, I guess, revive her following and her channel. I thought it would be better suited, since she does know the struggle, for her to try out, an actual microphone.
And
And also,
she's
sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Okay, I'll say it real quick. It looks like she is more or less established and she knows how to read a story. So like I do agree that starting out with a Snowball was was the right choice because she's already established. She knows she likes it and she's good at it.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, if I have to be honest, she's way better at reading stories than I am, because she comes from an acting background, whereas I don't
Oh.
have that. Yeah, so she did a bit of acting, and when she picked up the narration a couple years ago, she was more of a natural than I was, whereas, she's constantly picking on me for sounding like a robot, which I find fitting. But, she's able to bring more emotion in her characters to life more. So, yeah, I
Well,
mean, she struggled, and now it's her turn to actually try out a real mic.
I look forward to hearing more of her videos if she's got an acting background because I'm sure I could learn a thing or two from that as well.
She's just more, there's more depth to her emotion with her narrations, and she prefers, the fictional stuff over the true stuff. So she's able to bring those to life.
Yeah, 'cause it's
Um,
different like narration styles with each.
Definitely, definitely.
I feel like
But
whenever I do something true, I always hit it with a monotone. Like I don't
yeah.
try to, I
You and
just do.
everybody else though, dude.
Like I'll listen to it back and I'm like, wow, that's
This
bad.
happened when I
Like,
was 12 years old. It was a very windy night and the house was creaking a lot.
and then you upload it and people are like, dude, this was so good, and it's like, okay.
I fell
If you
asleep to
say so.
this. Great.
It's like I
Oh my
hope you've
gosh.
seen my other stuff first. I hope this isn't your first video,
Yeah.
but I appreciate it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
So we kind of discussed a little bit of like cell phones versus USB mics versus XLRs to start. But what would you suggest to someone who is maybe hesitant about starting their channel uh, with maybe low equipment? I know we kind of touched on that a bit, but for the people who are listening and maybe looking for that concise answer, what would you say to someone if they asked you, I don't have the greatest microphone, or I don't have the greatest this, I don't have the greatest equipment.
I'll say exactly what I was saying at the beginning, right? It's YouTube, okay? And I'm not trying to discredit it, right? Like, I mean, YouTube is my baby. Like, I've put so much time into this. I mean, I've put years into this. I've been full time for like 2 years. If anybody takes YouTube serious, it is me. Like, I don't miss uploads. I'm constantly around, always posting. But it is YouTube, and I think getting stuck on the quality, it can be a good thing to an extent. But there's a point where you just got to be like, I just got to put myself out there, see if I like it, see if people like it, and then go from there. Um, like nobody's going to be perfect at the beginning anyway. Even if you're, say you came from audiobooks and then you get into scary story narration, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, you're going to be off to a good start, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to already know how to mix in the background music and all this, and if you're going to like trying to grow something independent, right? um not saying that audiobooks aren't, because there's a lot of people that are independent anyway. It's all about like just growing with your audience. And even to this day, I absolutely try not to, but there's times where I'll leave in a repeated line or whatever, and it's not a big deal. It's my channel. It's not some finished product that's going off to some company or some voice acting gig for an anime or anything like that. It's my YouTube channel. So I think starting off on like the lower quality end is fine. And if you upgrade down the line and you hate that old content, there's always a delete button. I know that's a whole entire other conversation in itself. People always say, don't delete your old stuff. But if you really don't like your old stuff, but you've already learned that it's something that you enjoy, just delete them. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, definitely. So I just, I like listening to the original videos from other creators, and I tend to binge watch a lot of videos, or actually listen to, because the line of work that I'm usually in, and I just love going back and listening to, where they came from, how they've adjusted, and I mean, once in a great while, there is somebody who you absolutely cannot listen to their beginning videos because there's like kids screaming in the background, or some wild dog and just barking, and I get that. But 9 times out of 10, I like knowing where you came from. It helps me, like, I guess, know your story. It helps me get to know your story. So, yeah.
So start with whatever you've got, is what I'm picking up from this. If you've
Well,
got
see,
Absolutely.
if if you've got the money for a good mic, then that's your choice. But if you've got all you've got is a cell phone, but you really want to give it a try, then the most important thing over your microphone, over your editing skills, over your reading style, over anything else that you can come across, the most important thing to do is to just start. And regardless of everything, you'll pick it up as you go.
yeah, I agree. But I
Yep.
think you also need to take into account the motivation as to why you're doing this. Yes, it's true that the first step is the most difficult one, but if you're doing this because you're enjoying it, or you think you might enjoy it, then I think that's the correct reason to do it, and you should start no matter what you got. But if you're trying to just eventually just make money off of this, and you really hate the stories, and you don't even care for the genre or
Then
anything like
try
that.
even harder. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Then you know what? Then go ahead, go use your money on XLR a couple months, and then hate it when you're not growing as fast as whoever else has started at the same time as you, because that's what I've noticed.
I think it's just a lot about enjoying the journey.
Yeah, you got to enjoy it to some extent, at
Like
least. And
when
I'm not
I
against making money off of this. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying if you don't even enjoy it a little bit, then don't start at all.
Yeah, I mean, like when I started up my channel, I explained this in the pilot episode. I was kind of forced. Like it wasn't that I didn't have an interest in it, but just for a quick recap, I needed to either make a YouTube channel or get kicked from my Call of Duty team. I know that sounds so goofy,
Wow.
but that's just where I was at the time, you know.
Yeah.
So at first, I didn't take YouTube very serious, but I very quickly found out that it's something that I really liked, something that I really enjoyed doing. So, like for me, it wasn't even really about, I need to get a better mic quick. I need to do this. I need to do that. It was like, let's just post some videos, have fun with it. And I was very fortunate to, have a very loyal but small following from the get go. Uh, my channel was one of those at the start that like got a lot of views, but didn't grow like at all. Which was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. And it was never really about the numbers or what I was recording it on. I mean, my first probably 100 videos were recorded inside of my Dodge Dakota on break while I was at work, and I loved it. I had so much fun doing it. So when I finally got monetized and got my first YouTube check, I spent that to buy a mic, and it was like a couple weeks later, my dad called me and said that he was upgrading his laptop and asked me if I wanted his old one, and that was a godsend. That was a game changer. A lot of people would look at that laptop and be like, "Oh, that's a piece of junk," but it was so much better than my desktop. And from there, I saved up a couple more YouTube checks until I could buy a computer. And the mic that I'm using now was also paid for the same way. So, I think it's like there's nothing wrong with just upgrading as you go and just finding out if you enjoy it first and rolling with it. Um, like I said, if you get so stuck on being a perfectionist and everything has to be perfect, you're not going to enjoy the journey as much. You're not going to post as much. You're not going to have as much fun with it. Um, and I think attitude, even in story narration, attitude definitely transcends. Like,
Yeah.
if you're having fun with it, people will like very subtly notice that, like, hey, you can tell he really enjoys doing this, and then they're
Yeah.
going to subtly enjoy you doing it as well. So I don't know. I think ultimately equipment is just something to not get so hitched up on because it like just having a good mic doesn't mean that your channel is going to grow. It
Yep.
doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're starting off with some better quality, and it's a good thing. But is it really worth it to drop $500 for something that you might not be interested in?
Yeah.
The ultimate question.
And unfortunately, I feel like that seems to contribute to people becoming frustrated more easily with what they're doing. Granted, I know there are people like Stories After Midnight who did start off with this and they ran with it and it's been great for them. But then there are people in the community who, they feel like they've put in the money and the time and it's just not paying off. And you can tell they're not even having fun anymore. Like you were saying, it comes across in their videos that they have no interest in doing this and they're doing it out of some sort of weird sense of obligation or because they want to make money. So just, going back to the original question, just start. Doesn't matter what you start with. Just start and, keep going and keep growing and you'll get to where you actually want to be.
You touched on earlier about figuring out why you're doing it. That is definitely key. I had a conversation there on Twitter, as I was mentioning about or before the show and how I conduct myself sometimes when I engage with people, like telling them about their mic and maybe they should switch to another one. I had a conversation there with As the Raven Dreams, and he made mention about his YouTube metrics, that he wasn't growing as well, that he just posted a video and it, according to YouTube Studio, wasn't doing as well as his other videos do after they're posted. And that was an opportunity to remind him, check your attitude. Why are you doing this? Are you doing it for the numbers? Because your number, like, you're a small channel. Your numbers aren't going to come unless you hit some sort of like YouTube algorithm jet stream or something and ride your way to victory. And like that just won't happen. It doesn't happen, I don't think, for a long time until you get bigger, and then it's just this snowball of momentum. So I had to remind him, why are you doing this? Don't focus on the metrics. Like, focus on the things that will grow that. Your narration style, how you do this, how you do that, how you conduct yourself, and everything out of that will come. I think it's very feasible, touching back on the original topic, to start with something low quality, as long as you're starting, and that's it.
Yep.
Have a good attitude. Have your reasons why you want to start, why you're doing it, and if it's anything other than doing it for money, clout, or fame, you're probably pretty good, because you won't
Yeah.
get either of those for a very long time.
Yeah.
And you're going to hit those times, you're going to hit those points where you feel unmotivated and you don't feel like uploading a video and you don't feel like doing this, that, and the other thing. I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And your
Oh,
good
definitely.
quality mic isn't going to save you from that. It all comes down to reminding yourself, why did you start doing what you're doing? Maybe you have to take a step back. Maybe you have to take a break for a week or two. Collect your thoughts. If that desire comes back, then there you go. But find out why are you reading stories? Why did you start a YouTube channel? Because it's not easy
I
and
think it's
it's not
very
quick.
I think that's very important because nothing is really as important as persistence. They say persistence is key, right? And I hate always bringing this up. I feel like I bring it up too much, but
Bring it up, bro.
when
As
when
much
my
as you
channel
want.
got demonetized, right? I mean, that was the biggest slap in the face of all time. I had just became full time on YouTube a few months prior. Uh, Everything was going so well. I was gaining close to like 10,000 subs a month. It was insane. Like I've still nowhere even come close to getting back to that growth. But I lost all my videos, um, and I went from that 40, 50, 60K views a video to like 2 or 3K because there was no backlog to push my new videos. I didn't realize that it was going to stop things dead in its tracks like it did. So I went 4 months without. I didn't actually gain any subs. I went back in subs for those 4 months, and it was pretty heartbreaking. But I wound up just having to remind myself, like, I wasn't making money off this when I started. You know, a couple thousand views is, you know, like 1,000 more than I was getting when I first started. And I was like, you know, if this is something that's important to me, if this is something I have fun doing, why would I let this stop me? So, you know, during that time that I was demonetized, I still kept uploading. I still had fun with it. You know, it was heartbreaking, but I think that was, you know, the time in my quote unquote YouTube career that really like showed me, you know, what I'm in this for, and that's for the love of it, not for, um, you know, to be able to pay my bills and do this and do that. You know, those are all bonuses that can come as long as you're driven to be doing this in the first place and to have fun with it and love doing it. I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money off YouTube, right? Like everybody likes money.
Of course.
And if you can get to that point, that's fantastic. If you can go full time, that's even better. You absolutely should, you know, like well, I'm not saying, you know, quit your, you know, really comfortable job to do this. I'm not saying that, but you know, if it makes sense in your current life situation, that's okay. But you know, it just goes back to, you know, what are you doing this for? Is it because you love doing it, or is it because you just want to make some quick cash? Because I can promise you that that cash is not quick.
No,
No,
I
It's
know what
gonna
you
take a
mean.
can
long time
confirm.
before you see any, you know?
Well, you know, I did it for the fame, and it's clearly paying off, guys.
Let's go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, don't do this to get famous, guys. It doesn't quite work out that way either.
But yeah, you know, it like people were hitting me up during those 4 months and they were like, "I can't believe you're still posting." And um, you know, it was just, you know, like I still have fun doing it. I of course wasn't taking it as serious, which I think was kind of a good thing because I tested out a ton of different things and you know, made a lot of videos that weren't even story narrations just to see if I would enjoy it. And it was nice to just be like, you know what, screw metrics, who cares? Let's just post videos and see if there's anything that I like more than story narration, which there wasn't, which is why which is why I'm still doing it now. But yeah, you know, I just really don't think what microphone you try and pursue this on matters as much as your personal drive and your personal willingness to you know, find different things to make the audio better, like, you know, noise reduction, um, equalization, compressor. You can make a cell phone sound really, really crisp and really good if if you want to. You know, YouTube tutorials are everywhere. You
They
can
are.
you can make. I mean, you could talk through like a toilet paper tube into your cell phone and make it sound like an XLR if that's something you are really committed to doing. You know, that's just being a bit overdramatic, but you could, and you absolutely can if that's something that you're interested in doing.
I do agree. I think, you know, starting your YouTube channel is a lot more than just your equipment. That's why I think you shouldn't let it hold you back. You know, you said that there are certain channels out there that still use their cell phone and they're reaching these high numbers. I'd like to think that they're the exception, not the rule. That I think you should always strive to be better within reason. And some of
Mhm.
that comes with, you know, the quality of your audio or the quality of your background videos and whether like your mixing capabilities and stuff. So I think all of this can come in time, but you shouldn't let it stop you from starting.
I
Like we
agree.
tucked as we tucked on before, you should just start. Um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I kind of want to swing around here because I know Margbot, you have to go in 10 minutes. So I want to just kind of ask you this question.
Okay.
If you could start over, would
Mm.
you start with your cell phone again, knowing what you know? Or would you start with your Blue Yeti or a Snowball or something like that?
Okay, so I have a question for you. Are we talking about me starting right this second at this point in my life, all over? Or are we talking about me going back in time and starting when I originally did?
Starting when you originally did, knowing what you know now? If you could,
I would still start with my iPhone 4, I think is what I had at the time. It was an
okay,
older
okay.
iPhone too. I would definitely start with my iPhone 4. I have enjoyed the growing pains, and like I said, it was just so amazingly like satisfactory for me to be able to just pick up, my Blue Yeti and say, "Oh my gosh, guys, I have a real mic now." It was, I actually forgot. Now that I think about it, before I had the Blue Yeti, I had a cheap Amazon microphone. So it was nice to be able to upgrade, from the phone to a microphone, and then from a cheap microphone to like a better microphone. So yes, I have enjoyed like that feeling of being able to grow like that.
That's the fun of the journey, right?
Yes, certainly. And maybe someday I will know the fun of actually knowing how to use Vegas, or, some of the other auditing or editing software, so that I don't, so that my microphone sounds its best. Because honestly, I'm still using Audacity, and even with Audacity, I'm still a noob with it. And my recordings could sound so much better, but because I don't know what I'm doing, that's why it sounds the way it does. And I tried fancier software, but I have no clue what I'm doing. So why would I invest like hundreds of dollars into something that I don't know how to use?
Yeah, and there's no
I think that's
rush
like
to
one of
get
the
there.
funnest parts, because like even to this day, like I'm still learning things all the time. For example, I didn't find out until last week that you're supposed to equalize before you compress, and it's like, oh, well, that's like hundreds of videos that were done wrong. You know what I mean? So,
Hundreds of
it's like,
videos.
yeah, but it's like, it's fun. It's fun finding something and being like, "Oh, man," like, it's stuff that people probably wouldn't notice, but it's something I do, you know? And, going back to microphones again, one of the best moments in my whole entire, again, putting air quotes around YouTube career, was when I got that first check and I ordered a microphone. That microphone felt so much more to me than just a microphone, because it was bought with something that I never thought was possible. And,
Exactly, yeah.
it's such a good feeling. Like, I mean, I still have it sitting right here, and like, it's got so much sentimental value, I almost want to go back to it. You know what I mean? But that's just one of the fun parts of doing YouTube, is just growing over time and testing out different things, and finding out what works for you and what doesn't.
Yep.
I agree with that. The more blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, that you put into your channel, the more meaning it will have. So, and you get to enjoy those fruitful things. Like, for me, I started, kind of at the high end of things, if you will. So I don't get to know what it's like to upgrade my mic with a YouTube check,
You were
or
just
in
already a
general.
cool kid.
I was already a cool kid. I was molded by coolness, and here we are.
You got to put on a posh accent.
Yeah.
Well, I started here with an XLR microphone, and, well, you know what?
Started here with an XLR microphone and my monocle.
I actually don't have a stand for my phone or for my microphone. It's actually on a stack of cash.
That's great. I believe it.
Well, I don't know why. It's from my YouTube checks, man. My whole $50.
Let's go.
Hey, $50 is more than a lot of people have. So
Yeah, I know. It's
see, that's another thing. It's like when you get your first YouTube check, it's not even about the amount that you get. It's about the fact that you got a check from this at all.
I still have a picture on my phone of me holding all the 20s.
Legit?
It was the best feeling
All the
ever.
20s.
I sent the text to my dad, and I was like, who's winning now?
As you
It was
should.
funny. He's always been super supportive, though. I think he was actually more stoked than I was. He was like, "Wait a minute, what? That's YouTube money?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I didn't even think that was possible." And I was like, "I told you it was."
I
But
told
yeah,
you, Dad.
it's cool. I told you.
Yeah,
But
you got to give me some pointers on how to edit audio, because I'm just like normalize and then this preset that I've made in Audition, and then
ooh, you're on
that's it.
Audition. Okay, I can show you the best settings. From personal knowledge and about 50 tutorials that I've watched that all
Okay.
say the same thing.
Well, see, the problem is I feel like everybody has different levels that they need to figure out, and that's what I can't figure out. Like, I'm using Audacity and I normalize, and then I go and I use the noise reduction, and then there's thresholds to that, and it's like I don't think I've figured out the correct thresholds because I either end up like cutting out part of what I'm saying because I speak so softly sometimes, or you hear everything, and I may as well have not used that function. And then lastly, I use noise gate. So yeah, I still haven't figured out what I need to do.
Noise gate is the biggest godsend of all time.
You
Noisegate
know, I
is
actually,
literally my savior.
you're not the first person to say that. And I actually found out about Noisegate from Corp's husband, and he said the same did. He's like, you need Noisegate. Like, I mean, if you're not using it, you need to use it. And he's right. It did really improve my sound, but it's still not as good as it can be.
Yeah, it also eliminates a lot of your mouth noises and stuff. I mean, just the one click of Noisegate dropped my editing time by half. It's like one of those things I really wish I would have known about it from day one.
I would love to learn from you. I've got a noise
You
gate
don't use
on my
Noisegate?
processor. I've got a noise gate on my
Oh, okay.
preprocessor,
All
um, which is great because you don't hear me, breathe and stuff like that mostly, unless I'm being intentional about it. But you do hear the mouth noises, which honestly sometimes I leave in because I want it to seem authentic, not over edited. Just like I said, I leave in my breathing noises as long as they're not outrageous because I
See,
want
I'm a
it to feel.
smoker, so
Oh wow, that's gonna be another podcast episode. Why you should not be a bad boy.
I'm 24 and I've been smoking for over a decade.
Wow. That those lungs there better be careful.
So I gotta eliminate some of them. Some of them. I still leave a lot of them in. Like what I do is if I'm breathing in between sentences, I'll take it out. But if I'm breathing inside of a sentence, like before like a but or an and, then I'll leave it because otherwise it sounds like a big jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because then people are like, was there something in there? Was that a cut? But then if you leave the breathing and it's like, oh, that's why. Okay, all right. I think it's just a little bit smoother that way. But everybody has their own way of doing things. That's just how I do it.
Well, everyone has their own process. And before we get into the next before we get into the next sort of little portion of this, because I want to talk about software and stuff like that, and lump that in with equipment, and maybe touch on preprocessors and stuff like that. The physical stuff alongside the software stuff. But before we do that, before we get into the second part of that, I want to give Margbot a huge thanks for joining us. I know she's got to go now, so I'm going to give her that opportunity to gracefully peace out of here.
So I don't
Thank
have to
you.
sneak away.
No, so you just don't drop out of the call and we all sit here wondering what happened. Thank you for joining us. Like, I really do appreciate this, that you took the time to come and talk with us about this. I know you're very passionate about it, so it's been great having your say on how someone should start their channel. So thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you have a
Well,
great
thank
night.
you so much for having me. And if I could just say this one last thing, because I'm starting out a channel
okay.
and you're asking people for collaborations, don't expect them to collaborate with you. Like, just because
Yeah.
they agreed to be on your channel doesn't mean that they are going to necessarily feature you on theirs.
You're
And
going
on
to have
that
a bad
note,
time if you do that.
yeah, yeah, bad time, bad rap. We all talk, we all find out. It's not a good idea. Just don't do it.
Just send
Anyway,
everybody and their dog collab requests, is what I'm getting from this.
anyway, guys, I gotta go. Have a wonderful keep schooling these youngins. Bye.
We will. See you.
Catch you later.
All right. Now,
I'm glad she had like the same ideology on all of this that I do, so it wasn't just a back and forth between me and you.
right? I knew that. See, because I'm smart. I'm smart, I knew that I knew how she started and what she brought to the table. So I was like, man, we got to get Margbot on here because she'll be great. And she was. So thank you again for joining us, Margbot. Into the next section here. I want to talk about software. And this editing software. What should
Ooh.
someone start out with? Should they start out with Audacity? Should they maybe go the
Audacity
extra
and Movie
mile?
Maker, all set. There you go.
Now, why?
Forever software.
Why
Never need
Audacity and
anything
Movie
better.
Maker? You sound
Because
like
they're
you're
free.
speaking from experience, though.
They're free.
They're free. Have you used them?
I haven't used Movie Maker, no.
You start
But
out
I
with
have
your
used
cell
Audacity.
phone and your Dakota, but you've never used Movie Maker.
Nope.
Man,
I got Vegas like right away.
why?
Because I like Vegas. I had a little bit of experience on Vegas, so
Would
you
you
know I already
recommend
had
someone
it,
else start out with Vegas?
paid for, and already had the key for it. So
Okay.
yeah, no, I like it because you can edit audio in Vegas very easily. Obviously, you can't do like, I mean, you can, but it's just very pitchy. But you know, for cutting audio, I cut my audio inside of Vegas. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Uh, So what I do, I record an audition, um, you know, do all of my editing stuff, remove the peaks, and then all of my equalizers, compressors, all that, and then I drop the full thing in Vegas, and then you know, I set my second thing for music, and then I have the background music playing as the audio is playing, and then I'll kind of like chop up the music to have drops at the right point and all that good stuff. So I'm a big fan of Vegas, but mostly just because of its simplicity and how easy it is to chop audio. But I don't have a whole lot of experience with other editing software, if I'm just being completely honest.
Editing software is a tough beast to handle. Very tough. I used to use my first experience with a DAW was Reaper, and the learning curve with Reaper was insane. But once you get it, once you can master a DAW, once you can understand how to work it, it becomes an amazing tool. Like going from Audacity to Audition was night and day. My editing time has increased exponentially in Audition, and I'm sure it could even be increased even more so. But I will swear by and die on this hill that the auto heal tool is the best tool you could ever have. Like,
I don't think I've heard of that one.
man, let me blow your dang mind, okay? So
All right.
say here you're talking, right? And you get a little lip smack, right? You're like, dang it. But don't even worry about it. Just continue on. Because then you can just scroll in on the waveform, on the spectrum, and use the auto heal. And I don't know what it does, whether it kind of matches the average wavelengths in your selection or whatever, but it'll instantly remove that noise pop, any clicks, any pops, while preserving your underlying audio, so you wouldn't even notice it. So
yeah, that's interesting.
You should check that out.
You know, one that a lot of people forget that I feel like is one of the most important is a de-esser. Like,
Yes.
de-essers are huge because if you're not using a de-esser, people are going to be like, "Do you have a lisp?" And what people don't understand is a microphone will never pick up the exact sound of your voice, and especially s's at the end of sentences. You know, when they're unedited, not only do you get that s sound, but you get any reverb in the room as well, which makes it sound even more extended.
Mm-hmm.
So when you run a de-esser, it just completely like it shortens the wavelength, and then it also gives it a slight buzz sound so that it's not such a harsh S.
I've got a de-esser on my preamp, and for the sake of explaining equipment, I've got a DBX 286S preamp that runs into a Scarlett 2i2 and then into my computer. It has a de-esser on it, and if I crank that de-esser, it will literally sound like I have a lisp. I'm not cranking my de-esser right now, but this is exactly what it'll sound like, and it sounds hilarious. I wonder if I should just do that for a video.
You should.
What happened to your mic? Or if I figure out that the character has a lisp or something, I'll just either speak with one or crank my de-esser. The de-esser
I've noticed that if you
super handy.
crank the de-esser in Audition, it makes you sound like an old man.
Like an old man. Can you
It
do an
makes everything
impression?
super raspy, and then it just takes out all the S's.
Can you do an impression for us live on stream?
Well, so you.
Okay,
it's actually not far off. It's hilarious. Like, I don't know about you, but I love to just play with settings in Audition. like after I get everything the way it's supposed to be and then export it, I love to just like play with everything and see what everything does and then just crank them all the way up. And I don't know, man, it can be a lot of fun.
That's important for learning, though.
It
You know,
is.
that's important for learning a piece of software that may be overwhelming at first, because everything's going to be overwhelming at first, but learning how something works and especially breaking it and seeing what different settings do. So if you're struggling with Audacity or something, Audition, and a certain particular plugin or effect, like just start cranking things, figure out what they do, and learn everything about it by breaking it. I think that's the best way to learn certain things like this.
Yeah, and it's really important to play with the order of things too, because like it say noise gate, right? Like noise gate, I feel like should be a standard. Like you need noise gate.
Can you
If
explain
you
what noise gate is for someone who might not know?
noise gate, basically it partially dims the reverb, which is like your echo, and then it also in between sentences, if there's any like small mouth noises or any light breathing, it'll eliminate it. Basically, anything underneath a certain dB will get eliminated by noise gate.
You know what? I think I
So
need that. I've got this weird hum. I think sometimes with my XLR, where the ends of my sentences will have this like interference effect. So maybe
yeah,
that would
yeah,
be handy.
noise gate will help with that. It won't be like a fix. I think you need to play around with your noise reduction a little bit, but it'll definitely help.
Well, I know
But
where I'm
what
going
I was gonna
after
say
this.
is
Gonna
like
get a
if you
tutorial.
noise gate before you normalize, it'll ruin everything. And you know, you're probably gonna be like, oh wow, like I'm never using noise gate again. It made it all awful. But if you use noise gate at the end, it makes everything so much clearer and so much better.
Hmm. I think we'll have a chat because I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, I can show you my Audition settings. I have it set up super simple.
Okay.
Like there's only like 5 steps that I do. So
Perfect. I look forward to that because I've got like 2 steps. Just normalize and then this preset. Boop. And that's it. Which is like I think it's equalize, compress, and then I think I had a hard limiter on there or something like that, but
I'm not a
um
fan of hard limiters.
yeah,
I think it's just something about my voice though. That's
I
another important thing. Like some things work for some people but don't work for others.
yeah. Now I put it in just in case there was like a peak, you know, blow someone's
Yeah.
ears, but generally it's okay. So, for someone who's someone who's starting out, what kind of software would you recommend they use?
Audacity for sure. I
Audacity?
mean just whatever's available. You know, especially in audio narration cuz I know people hate to hear it. Nobody cares what's on the screen. no,
It's true.
nobody cares.
The amount of times I have asked someone if I should, you know, do this or that or the other thing on screen, they're like, I don't even watch. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
what I thought.
I mean, if you do like a fireplace or something, you know, people might like that a little bit because they might have it on their big flat screen while they're sleeping, and then it's like, oh wow, I've got a fireplace now. Look at that, you know.
Free
But
fireplaces.
free fireplace,
I just
like.
have to listen to this crappy guy read me some poorly written stories or something.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, I wouldn't recommend having just pictures, but you know, just like a light effect on really anything is fine. So you really don't need something crazy for video editing. And then Audacity has everything you could ever need. And if it doesn't, you know, you can get extensions which are also free. So
Audacity is a great start. So if
oh
you're
yeah,
out there kind
definitely.
of wondering how okay, so now I've got my cell phone, I've got my Yeti. What do I do for software? So start with Audacity. That will give you a great leg up because it's free and it will teach you the basics of editing and it's a good piece of software. But
I
then
think
once you
Audacity can easily be your forever software too.
I
Like
mean, yeah,
I
but
only pay for Audition just for the simplicity. Like
and that's it.
editing in Audition is way easier than editing in Audacity. But ultimately, you know, if I was still on Audacity, there wouldn't be really any difference in my audio,
No,
like at all.
you can do everything on Audacity, but as you get more serious about your channel and stuff like that, switching to something like Audition would be very recommended, I guess, because it's going to increase your productivity, increase the time it takes to edit and stuff like that. And that's kind of what you're paying for is like the ease and stuff. Now, there is a learning curve for sure, but as a new channel, that shouldn't be something that you're worrying about. There will be a little learning curve to Audacity for sure. Don't get me wrong. But like I said, if you break things and if you fiddle with all the settings and you try to break and then repair and stuff like that, you'll get the hang of it. And don't be afraid to use your videos as literally experiments. I still experiment to this day. Like
Oh,
I
definitely. I
experimenting
mean,
with leaving in my breathing noises and stuff like that. And
there's been
yeah.
times where like I've done just wacky stuff with my audio, and then I'll leave like a pinned comment on the video, like I did something a little bit different. Let me know if you guys notice it. Let me know if you like it. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people will leave some actual feedback. That they might be like, oh, it sounds a little bit more hissy, or I really really like this. It sounds a little bit more throaty. You know what I mean? Like you can just have fun with it. It goes back to what I said earlier. Like it's your YouTube channel. Do with it whatever you want. In the story narration field, just make sure you get permission for stuff. Other than that, like it's your channel. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. And
Yeah.
you know,
Speaking of asking for permission and stuff, if you would like to hear more about that, we talked about that extensively in our first episode and a bunch of other different things. So we won't go over too much about that today, but yeah, definitely ask for permission. So is there any sort of physical piece of equipment that you would recommend to someone who's starting out? Like, let's say aside from a cell phone, or is there something else that you've used or that you've seen used that could go along with their current setup to complement them? Is there, as a new narrator just getting into the scene, can you think of any sort of piece of technology other than the recording device that someone should get?
I'm such a minimalist, honestly. Like, but I think one piece of equipment that's really nice to have is I don't even know if it's the technical term, but a boom arm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because you can have those little stands that come with most mics, but you'll still find yourself either having to hold the mic up to your face, or having to crouch way down to your desk in order to even talk into your microphone properly. Whereas if you got a boom arm, wherever your head is, I mean, you can swivel that thing around to wherever you want.
And
I think
boom
it's a
arms are pretty cheap on Amazon.
Yeah, mine was $12, and I've been using it for like 2.5 years now.
Is it newer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Because I probably had the same one.
It's great, man. Like there's no point in getting. I mean, you see some being sold for like $100, and it's like, why? Like, what can this one do that mine can't?
Bro, I've got the Rode PSA 1, I think, because I wanted to go like super crazy. And the dang thing is like half broken, and it came that way, and I just haven't wanted to send it back. One of the arms, like it's like spring loaded internally in the elbow, but one of the arms that comes out of it goes into this square pipe, I guess,
It's a
lack of a better word.
transformer.
Man, it grinds on the metal. So when I extend it and retract it and stuff, it squeaks, and you can hear it in my audio. Like if I do it right now, you'll hear that. But it's literally like tore up the metal on the arm. It's stupid, but I literally don't want to pay money to send it back just to get a replacement, and maybe it'll happen again. I think I just got a faulty one, but otherwise it's a great piece of equipment.
Yeah, I think just like the $12 newer or whatever they call it, boom arm is perfect because if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's basically it's shaped like an L, and there's an elbow in the middle of it, and you can clamp it onto your desk. So as long as you got like an inch lip on the end of your desk, you can clamp it onto pretty much anything. I mean, you could even bring up a nightstand next to your setup and clamp it onto that if it doesn't work on your desk for whatever reason.
Would you
Um,
recommend a shock mount, pop filter, stuff like
oh
that?
yeah, yeah, definitely. But again, I don't think they're really completely necessary. Um,
I'd give
if you
one a
talk
+1 to the pop filter though.
if you talk off axis, it's basically a pop filter. But
I mean,
I
that's
mean, if
true. I
you want to
think you should
get
do
if you want to
that.
get the full extent out of your microphone, yeah, you need a pop filter. I personally use two technically. I use an actual foam pop filter, and then I have a windscreen in front of it. But that's mostly just because my setup is so echoey. But yeah,
I think a pop filter is great if you don't have some sort of like de-esser or something like that, or like a noise gate maybe built into your preamp. It takes care of a lot of that, the pops and stuff like that. So I think starting out, a pop filter should be on your list. Like Slumber said, if you do speak off axis, that will negate a lot of that. And I think just as a general rule that you should. This is what I'm coming to terms with, kind of seeing now.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Like I
use
said, I've got 2 pop filters, and I still talk off axis when I narrate. So
Yeah, I think it makes you sound more human, normal. I notice that not a lot of mouth noises get in when you're speaking off axis. It just sounds more natural. At least that's what
especially if
I've
you're going with
found.
the proximity effect, which I
Yeah.
feel like the proximity effect is like huge for narration.
Now, what do you mean when you say proximity effect?
So when you get super close to a microphone and you kind of like whisper a little bit, you notice how it's still like
Oh,
super loud,
yes.
but I think like I don't know, me personally, I really like that style for narration. So that's kind of what I've always done. A lot of people do that pinky and thumb thing, and then that's how far you want to be from the mic. But I'm like, nah, fam, full proximity.
We're getting all ASMR up in here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it depends on the kind of story that you're recording and the kind of feel you want to put across. If you're in a intense mode, intense scene in the story, I don't necessarily know if you want to be up close, or maybe you're having a conversation with someone and you want to give the impression that they're far away. You speak a little bit off axis and then come back and stuff like that. But you'll learn.
Just
You'll
run
learn all
all the
that.
way across the room. Hey, run back.
What? Run back again.
Dude, I love it when people do that stuff. Like I can't help but laugh. Like I know it's all for for what am I looking for here?
Immersion.
Like yeah, for immersion, but it's like it's too funny. I don't
I've
know.
never done that. I couldn't be bothered to get out of my chair, run across the room, scream, hope that it gets into the audio, and then run back.
I
Like
did that once for a line. It was just like, "Hey, bro."
that's
Literally all the comments were just timestamps. They were like, "What the fuck was that?"
you sound like you're on the other side of your room. Because I was.
Because I was. And somebody's like, "Whoever that was had a really terrible mic. You shouldn't work with them anymore." And I'm like, "It was me, and it was 2 words. Why are you so upset?"
It was me and it was 2 words. Oh my gosh. If someone ever said that to me, I'd probably just like chuckle. No one has yet, but and that's
And I
not an
think that's another thing
invitation.
we could talk about is YouTube comments.
That will
I don't
be
know. I
definitely
think
another. Well, do we get into that? I don't. Do we get into that now?
I don't know if it's like if it's a big enough talking point to really make an episode out of it, but yeah, I mean like YouTube comments, man. Some people just come in because they're mad about something and then they take it out on their uh favorite YouTubers. I don't know if I want to use the word favorite. I guess just any YouTuber that's in their recommended. Like I'm having a bad day. I'm gonna try to ruin somebody else's too.
I hate this guy's thumbnail. I'm gonna let him have it. You know what's funny though? Speaking of comments, um, and I can't even loosely relate this to equipment and starting a narration channel, which is fine. I had these comments that this, these 2 people, I think it was like 2 or 3, they would say something to the effect of X is wrong with your video. And I'd be like, okay, that's constructive. So I'd comment
Yeah.
after I've cooled down. What would you suggest I do? Because I'm like, maybe I can learn something here. And so I check maybe like a day later or something like that, and the comment has been deleted. Every single time that I've not confronted, but that I've replied to someone with that sort of comment, they've deleted their comments or something
Yeah,
happened because they always disappear.
I've noticed too, like it's like you can never be right. You just can't. Like I had somebody they just left like a nasty comment, but then like their main thing that they were talking about was my terrible lisp, which is kind of what made me bring up what I said earlier.
Yeah,
And
dude, it's
I just
terrible.
explained to him that that video was recorded in a totally different setup than my own, and I just could not get rid of the reverb, and then that's why the S's are so strong in the audio. And like, I wasn't even being mean to him, I just explained to him why that video was particularly harsh on the S's, right? And then he responded like, "You can't take constructive criticism. This is why all YouTubers are trash and blah blah blah." And it's like, what? I just explained to you why. What? Like, okay. So
People are
it's like,
vicious in comments, man.
yeah, it's like when if something is obviously a hate comment, there's really no point in replying or trying to make sense of it. But if something is constructive criticism, you might be able to learn something.
You know what bothers me is, yeah, and speaking of that, you shouldn't shy away from those comments necessarily. Try to learn something from them. And like I said, if you even just ask what you could do better, you sometimes solve that issue altogether because they delete their comment for one reason or another. But the one thing that has really been grinding my gears that I've noticed with almost every facet of YouTube and content creation is glorifying the negative comments. And I see this a lot in the narration community.
I've done this. I've done this.
I think
I
everybody
feel
has
like,
to a degree, but
yeah.
this is what I'm saying. Because what I see is someone takes a picture of a comment and you know that they just took that screenshot, right? So it's like a second before that screenshot was taken, they left their comment and then they share it. Now I get it. You know, sometimes you have those nasty comments and you've got this real good burn that you've been working on for a few weeks and you're really looking to show that off. And that's cool. But it just comes across in such a weird way when you leave a nasty reply or maybe a funny reply or some sort of reply to them, right? Like you're sticking it to them
Mhm.
and then post that screenshot. Like, look what I did. Now, the reason why I have an issue with that is because it just seems like that's why you're doing it. Is it maybe an issue of stooping to their level or
Yeah,
trying?
I don't know. I think sometimes things just aren't seen as deep to the person doing it as it will be to others. Because I've done this a few times, a number of times. Exactly what you're talking about. I'll always like, scribble out their names so that nobody goes looking for it and whatever. But like sometimes people will just say something that's so ridiculous, and I get a laugh out of it. So then I'll respond with something witty, and then I'm like, I'm gonna post it to Twitter, and I don't even know why I'm doing it. I'm just like, I'm just going to. And then people are like, trying to say like, "Oh, that person's wrong," blah blah blah. And it's like that's not really the response I was looking for. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just thought people would kind of like join in on the, funniness of it. Like, where did this person get this from? But that's never really how it's received. So
Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think there is an overall negativity to doing that. Like you
yeah,
said, if someone posts something outrageous and you want to share it for a point other than your witty comment, maybe it's something like, something that attacks you in the feelings or makes you feel a certain way and you're like, well, this is kind of talking to a bigger theme. And that could be, I don't know, a personal attack or something like that. And you want to use that comment to shine light on something bigger. I think that's cool. But when it's like, hey man, your audio is terrible, and you're like, yeah, so was your mom last night. Ha ha ha. Screenshot, post to Twitter. I don't think that's, the right place for that. What I'd like to
yeah.
start doing,
I just don't read into it too much. But I mean, I can see your point of view for
yeah,
sure.
it's nothing that like I would never bring it up in any sort of situation other than if we were just talking about comments. So
Yeah,
uh
yeah.
what was I gonna say? Play me out, Johnny.
I don't know, man. I can't read your mind.
Oh, I remember. I personally would like to start sharing the good comments we receive.
Yeah, yeah, I do that sometimes too. Um, because there's a lot of positivity, but then something I've noticed is if people want to complain, they're going to find something to complain about. Because there's been a few times where like I've gotten just
Your mic took
great
a dump.
comments, and I'm like, wow, this like really made my day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do the same thing, screenshot it, post it to Twitter, and then people are like, dude, you're kind of egotistical. Like, it's like, man, I was just trying to share some positive vibes. But
Yeah.
okay, all
Yeah,
right.
no, people will take issue with anything they can take issue with.
Yeah.
The main point of sharing the good comments is because you'll breed, in my eyes, and not in all situations, you'll breed better comments because you've got certain people out there, right, that are giving you these negative comments because they want that Twitter clout and want you to share it. So they're going to give you this trolly nasty comment because they know you're going to share it. And I don't think we give enough light to the good comments, that the good genuine comments that people give us, to foster that culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To
You know,
foster a culture of
something
good comments.
something somebody told me when I was first starting up my channel, and it's like it stuck with me so heavily. I probably won't be able to word it as gracefully if they did, as they did, even though it has stuck with me. You know, like the basis of what they said has stuck with me heavily. Um, you know, you can have a video with 5,000 views, right?
Right.
And say the video has 30, 40 comments, you know, somewhere in that ballpark. Um, you know, if there's one or two negative comments in there, it's still like, you know, 20, 30 that are positive. But not only that, a lot of people watch content and just don't comment. If that video has 5,000 views, that is potentially 5,000 people that clicked on your video and absolutely adored it and are anxiously waiting for your next one. Now, out of those 5,000 people, there are pretty good odds that there's going to be at least one or two people that are mad about something or just didn't like it and that will let you know. So, you know, you really think about it, it's not 1 out of 30 people that took issue with your video. It's 1 out of 5,000 that took issue with your video. And I think that's something that a lot of people overlook.
The same could go with I think dislikes and stuff. You know, not
Definitely.
not keeping it in perspective.
I
But
mean, a
when
lot of people, you know, they dislike for a lot of reasons. It might just be because they didn't like the story. It might not even have anything to do with you,
I wish
you
those
know?
people would let me know. You know, did you not like the story? Why? Like I'm always curious why someone is down voting. Why do you dislike the video? Is it my narration style? Did I do something different? Is it the stories that I'm narrating? Did I leave in something you didn't like? At least it could be helpful to let me know, because there's a difference between like just trolley comments and those comments that can really help you grow.
Yeah.
And that's kind
Yep.
of what I'm looking for. If you dislike my video, you know, I'm not going to hate you if you tell me why. I've had people give me the nicest comments ever, but they were filled with constructive criticism. But the way they delivered it was respectful of me as a person. And I got the most from that. But it's, you know, the people that are just like, you know what I said before, you're a terrible person. And that's it. You
Yeah.
know,
I
why?
think like, you know, it's just it's unfortunate that creators have to deal with that, but I think it's essentially something you kind of sign up for when you make a channel. It's just something you got to be expecting, and you know, you got to focus on the light more than the dark.
Yeah, if you're new, don't worry about these negative comments that will come. Don't worry about the dislikes. Don't even worry about the likes. Don't worry about the metrics. Just find your reason why you're doing something. Find your why and do it, and stare at that. Keep that in your sights. The moment that you lose sight of your perspective, the moment that you lose sight of your why, is when things are going to start tumbling downhill, and you'll get thrown off course by negative comments. You'll get thrown off course by a dislike, wondering if you're doing something wrong. But when you go at it with the knowledge that I'm legitimately trying my best, these things are going to happen. They can happen early, they can happen later. It doesn't matter. They're going to happen. And as long as you have a strong why, and as long as you know why you're doing something, those won't matter. They'll shake you, sure. They'll make you feel, you know, why are you disliking my video? What did I do wrong? But it won't permanently redirect you off course. It won't permanently make you feel like maybe you just should stop doing what you're doing. And so If you come across these comments, don't take them to heart. Maybe try to learn something from them. Ask them why they think what they think. Dig into it, and maybe they'll delete their comments, like it's what's happened to me, or maybe they'll reply. And I think once you break past that initial emotional reaction on their part, you might be able to learn a thing or two. Because I think most people post comments out of emotions, and then once
Yep.
you break down that initial reaction, you'll find someone that would be more often than not ready to kind of help you out if you can get past that. And then I think what I would also say, don't reply with emotion. Give yourself time to calm down if you're going to reply. There have been
Yeah.
times where I've sat there, man, and I've had like what I can think of is the nastiest like reply because I'm so heated at this one person, and I let it sit. I'm not joking. I'll let it sit for like 3 minutes, and then I'll read it again and delete it because my feelings have changed and I realize it's just not worth my time.
Yeah, sometimes comments can come off as hate, and like you don't realize that it's criticism until you really, really analyze it. Like I remember one time somebody left a comment, and somewhere inside of the comment they said this narrator will never get anywhere. And that kind of hit me in the feels, man. I was like, dang, that's how they feel. And
Yeah.
I kind of took a couple minutes, went and reread it, and then they said that it was something in my narration that they really didn't like. So it's so funny looking back on it. My channel was relatively small at this time though, so I don't know. I went over to their channel, found their Twitter, and then they had open DMs on Twitter, so I DM'd them, and I was really nice about it. I was like, hey, you left a comment on my video saying I could improve on something. I was just curious what it was, and they pointed out that I had a very downward inflection at the end of my sentences. And I was like, "What? I don't think that's true." So then I listened back to my video and like really listened for it. And I was like, "Holy crap. Yeah, like now that it's been pointed out to me, that's irritating. Like I almost want to just get rid of every single video I have."
Now,
But
downward inflection isn't bad.
well, it
So
was like I
what,
would end my sentences like this
like every time?
every time,
Okay. I can see
every
that.
single time,
I
every single time.
I
So
thought they were saying like just downward inflection is bad, and I'm like, no, like you need downward inflection because if you don't, you start talking like this, and it sounds like you just got out of high school and you've got your Uggs on with your caramel latte, and it's Halloween, and you're looking all spoofy in your fur coats and stuff.
But yeah, I think what it was I was trying to like back then I really I didn't try to sound spooky. I just didn't want to sound excited reading something scary, right?
Hmm.
So I was unintentionally trying too hard. Um it
Oh,
takes a long
instead
time
of
to
just
find your
like
sound.
naturally reading.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I
So
understand that.
once it was pointed out to me, I was like, "Holy crap!" You know what I mean? And then I fixed it. And after I posted, like 20, 30 videos without the downward inflection, all of a sudden I was getting all these comments on my old videos like, "Holy crap, you used to suck."
Oh my
You
gosh.
know what I mean? Like people really let me know because it
I,
wasn't until I changed it that other people noticed.
I never, I've never got stuff like that. I
Yeah, I
want
don't know. I
in.
feel like I feel like I was just especially bad when I started, honestly.
Yeah, I think the most constructive stuff that I've gotten when I first started was like slow down. And that's so true. When I looked at my first couple videos, I can hardly stand it. No, I say first couple, but it was a lot more than that because I would literally just try to rush through the sentence and then get to the next one and then get to the next one and the next paragraph instead of letting the sentence breathe. Instead of using silence like a tool, I was afraid of it and just moved on to the next one.
I will say something else. This is why I don't really do this as much anymore. I used to really, really there was a period of time where I really tried to express emotion in the story. Like I went for more of a voice acting style than I did a narration style. And there was one story that I did where it was a very emotional story. Like the character was just broken down at his wit's end for the whole entire story. So I narrated it and made it sound like, I was on the brink of crying.
Hmm.
Well, this video went viral, basically, and I gained a lot of traction from it. So then a few days later, I did a live stream, and everybody in my chat was like, "Oh, this is that crybaby narrator," and like, it's like, no, stop,
No,
stop,
stop. This
no,
isn't
it's
what
the
I want
one
to be.
video, it's
Yeah.
the one video.
It's not
Like,
me. It's not me.
but yeah, I was telling people like, no, watch some of my other stuff, and they were like, oh, you must not just hear it because you narrate so often, but dude, you sound like you're crying when you narrate, and it's like, no, it's the one video, it's literally just the one.
You know,
But
speaking of that, I sometimes wonder if maybe I should adopt the spooky monotone-esque style, because like you said, I narrate more so on the side of a voice actor, more or less. I guess it's more so on the side of a voice actor than it is on a narrator, but it depends on how you define that. Like
yeah,
David Attenborough, an amazing narrator. I wish he could just narrate my life and I could listen to it all the time. And if you're not familiar with David Attenborough, he narrated the Planet Earth
okay,
series and those kind of nature documentaries. Very iconic voice. Now, when he does it, granted, narration is less, I think, less emotional range, less vocal range, and more just sort of, I don't even know how to explain it. I think that's the only best way I can explain it, Slumber. It's just less vocal range. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not kind of all
Because
over the
I
place?
think I've definitely adopted the style where I definitely have my niche sound that I go to. But I try and add, like, just that subtleness. Like, if something's scary, it's like it's very subtle, but it's noticeable, like, I sound more scared. If something's emotional, it's very subtle, but it's noticeable. I'm a little bit more whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the style I've adopted, but, it's interesting how many different styles are out there.
I've definitely gone the voice actor route, and not really intentionally. I just feel like if I was listening to someone tell a fictional story, which is mainly where I play, I want to feel like I'm there. I want to feel like I'm actually talking to the person who is being spoken about in the story. So, like for example, the uh the best story I think I ever narrated in terms of being able to play a character was a drug addict, like tripping balls. And it was great.
Nice.
It was great. I forget the name of the story. It was something, I think it was by Jesse Clark, I want to say. Something about not doing drugs again or something like that. But anyway, so in the story, this guy's tripping balls. And the writer wrote it perfectly because he would repeat words. He would make you read the
Mhm.
story as if you are tripping with them, which allowed me to go crazy. So it was like bringing in different vocal amplitudes and different like stutters and stuff like that, and kind of acting like you're sort of twigging out and stuff like that. And I enjoy that. I enjoy it, and especially when I get to play someone who's crazy, someone who's maybe just killed someone, or being, you know, I guess taken over, possessed in a way. I
Yeah,
just
definitely.
I enjoy doing that. There was the longest story I did actually. My friend is stuck in an alternate universe, I believe is the title. It was like 3.5 hours long, but there was an Australian guy in there, and I did my best Australian accent. I took a leap and I did it, and afterward, I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep this in. People are gonna hate me because I'm not from Australia, and I don't think I can do one. But I did it anyway because YOLO. And you know what? No one actually said a word about it. I was like, thank goodness, because if anyone was going to nitpick, it was going to be that.
That's
Surprisingly
awesome, man.
enough, the only nitpick people had multiple times is the like 20-second backing track I had loop for 3.5 hours.
Oh.
I regret that. But you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
You know what though?
That would do it.
what's funny is for every one person that said, I cannot stand this backing track, do you have a version without it? There were 3 people who were saying, I love that backing track. Where can I
That's
find it?
so interesting, isn't it?
Isn't it
Because
though?
it's so subjective, man. It's so subjective. Like I'll get comments back to back within 1 minute of each other of somebody saying, "Dude, you pick the most dog crap stories. Like this channel sucks." And then I will get a comment literally like just right away after, like, "Man, you pick the best stories. Like it's always stuff I haven't heard before. Um, they mesh together so well. They're so different, but yet like still like that SR style that I'm looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
Everything's
very
subjective.
interesting because you know I kind of pride myself in doing a little bit of it all. Like I will do like you know your stereotypical let's not meet stalker story, but then I might have it lined right up next to something that is extremely Lovecraftian
Mm,
and essentially might not even really make any sense unless you sit there and brainstorm for 2 hours trying to figure out what just happened.
yeah.
And, you know, that's just what I like. That's what I like to do. I like to do it all
I
because
do too. I definitely enjoy trying a bunch of different things, you know.
yeah.
With the let's not meets and stuff like that. They give me a chance to have a more conversational approach to a video rather than trying to make you feel a certain way. I'm more so trying to, as the narrator, the narrator, get you to think that you're listening to the person who wrote the story tell their story. And that's my goal. Funny story though, and it's completely unrelated, loosely related, I guess. I voice overed in a video game. Not a lot of people know that. And
Dude, that's the dream.
it's a bad game. I'm not
Oh.
going to say it, but it was a football game and I voice overed the quarterback. So I'm literally in this room yelling into a snowball in a not soundproofed room, cadences and stuff like that. Boy. But it was really, really cool. And I think maybe that's why I started doing things in a voiceover sense, because I think it would be cool to do audiobooks and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I feel like maybe if I can have this portfolio online that shows the different voices I can do, the different feelings I can evoke, then that will play well in my favor. And you know what? So far it has. I may or may not be doing a audiobook in the near future, which is
That's
which
great,
is
man.
pretty
I know
sweet.
for me, like I've gotten some really crazy offers for audiobooks. The only reason I've never taken any, no matter how tempting that deal is just because I don't feel like I have the time currently. Like I'm so encapsulated into my channel, and basically all of my free time goes towards it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's something a lot of people overlook. Like if you really make a splash in the narration scene, um, there's so many avenues that you can go to from it.
Yeah, you're
And
not just reading stories on here for some, Joe Schmo who wants to try and fall asleep. Like,
yep,
you're setting up your proverbial portfolio for
yep.
whatever you want to do in terms
I
of
mean,
voice acting and stuff.
it's astonishing, man. Like I'll have really reputable authors hit me up saying that they found me through my channel and like, hey, I would love to have you do my audiobook. You know, and it's like that's so crazy. It just kind of like puts
Isn't
things
that the
in
coolest
perspective
though?
of like
Yeah,
who's watching your channel. You know?
that's the coolest. Like, I would never have thought that would have happened, but it's a byproduct of sticking with it through the hard times, learning from the criticizing comments, and generally trying to improve on your craft and improve your equipment. Because frankly, I think if you want to take it off YouTube, you can't do audiobooks, and I will fight
Oh,
people to the
definitely. No,
death.
yeah, no,
You
yeah,
can't
no.
do
That's
audiobooks
something
on a
I
cell
that's something
phone.
I agree with you. Notice when we were talking about equipment, I kept on bringing up it's your channel.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to get into audiobooks or like just general voiceover work, yeah, I would say you can't even make do with a USB. You might
No.
want to go with an XLR.
You need an XLR. You need the soundproofed room. You need the good audio engineering, editing and stuff like that. You need to know how to do that because that's serious business. And you can make some serious money doing it, but it is very time consuming. And the one thing I'm worried about with doing audiobooks is my voice already gets so tired as it is recording for like an hour and a half straight. I don't know how I do it for like 5 or 6 hours.
Same.
It like my throat starts to like tighten up and I'm losing the vocal range and everything else. And I'm boring myself while I'm reading. But I was watching this one video actually, and you can get this tea. It was new to me that will like, I guess it would be like a honey tea or something like that. But it will coat the inside of your throat, allowing you to project better. But the coolest thing was this guy, and I forget his name, but he's very well known. It was like this eyedropper thing almost, and you put it on your tongue, and it's supposed to get rid of your mouth noises, which I have a lot of actually right now because I need water and I don't have any with me.
But it'll
drink a Mountain Dew. You know what? Actually, this is a pro tip for everyone out there who wants to do recording. Do not eat salt and vinegar chips prior to recording.
Yeah, only nacho cheese Doritos.
Only nacho cheese Doritos.
And make sure you eat the greasiest pizza possible prior to recording.
But legit.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do either of those things.
I once ate like half a bowl of salt and vinegar chips, and then I went to read, and my tongue felt like it was 10 sizes too big. I had the worst mouth noises ever because it just dried it all up.
And then they came around the corner and...
Yeah. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great
like
talk,
that,
Slumber. This has been a great talk.
I feel like we like stepped into a lot of potential episodes, but that's okay. That's all right.
We did. I think we got the basics out of the way with the equipment, so I hope that you've learned something, dear listener. Maybe you did too, Slumber. I don't know. But I hope that
I'm never learning.
I'm never
stuck
learning.
In my ways.
Closed mind.
What was that? I can't hear you over my deep thoughts.
Over your deep thoughts. Wow.
I'm just so wrapped up in thinking that I'm always right, man. I just can't hear you right now.
Okay.
No,
okay. I don't know how to respond to that.
Imagine that.
I mean, he seems to be responding. No. So into Can't I Talk, to close, going for equipment, the most important thing, start with what you've got. It's the only thing that matters is that you start, and you can pick everything else up from there. If you got a phone, do it. You got a phone in Dodge Dakota, even better. Record in there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the pro setup.
That is the pro setup. And don't worry about having good equipment, having bad equipment, because that stuff can all change, and you can upgrade at any time. But once you get your channel under your feet, and once you get running and you start figuring out if you actually like what you're doing, then you can look at upgrading if it's so, if you so desire. But don't make that a focal point. Don't be afraid to at least create your channel. Don't be afraid to get the ball rolling just because you don't think that you have good equipment. As you've heard here, people have started with what I think most of us would say is not doable based on our own perception. And that's with a phone. But if that's all you've got, use it and roll with it. Use
Very
Audacity.
Something I forgot to mention earlier is like you can get like actual video editors on your phone now.
Oh yeah, you can do it all from your phone if you want to.
Yeah, like you literally don't even need a computer. I mean, you could just have nothing but your phone and be fine.
There's no reason not to start. There's no reason not to try to do something you think you might enjoy. Because we don't want to be, 80, 90 years old, sitting in our old folks' home or whatever the case may be, wondering what if.
Yeah.
What if? What if I started?
There's not much worse than a what if feeling. I mean, it's it's worth trying. And if you don't like it, that's okay.
Yeah, at
Um,
least when you become 80, you can say, you know what, I tried it and it wasn't for me. But at least I know. At least I gave it a shot. Using your phone, using a low piece of equipment in your eyes isn't going to be the end of everything. It isn't going to be what you're going to use forever. You can always change that, but just start. Use Audacity to edit your audio. Get good at that. Upgrade when you need to. If you need a free editing, video editing platform, you can use Windows Movie Maker, I'm sure. But if you want to try your hand at something a little bit more powerful, try Davinci Resolve. I used that program for a while, and it's a great free program. It has a learning curve, but once you get used to that learning curve, it's like Premiere Pro and After Effects in one program for free. And it's amazing.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I stopped using it though. I found that it would crash a lot on me, and maybe that was just me. But it's one of the things of free software, I guess. It's developed by
Control S,
Blackmagic.
a lot.
Yeah, it's developed by Blackmagic, and they're pretty reputable in the video production scene. So I would give it a try. If you're not afraid of something like that, give Davinci Resolve a try. They've got a great audio editor in there as well. It's kind of the whole package. As my recent addition, and this is, I think it was like late last year, is the entire Adobe Suite. So if you want to actually do something like that, like if you want all of that, I'd almost wait until Christmas, because that's the only time I know that this comes around. But they had the entire Adobe Suite for like $30 when it's normally about like 60 for me. So I mean, I'm paying like $35 for it for all Adobe programs. So if you want something like that, hold out for a sale, and then just keep renewing it around that time, hoping they do it.
Yeah, I got the same thing going on. The Adobe package is pretty nice if you got the money for it.
It is nice, but very expensive. So wait for that sale. But there are things out there to get you started. You don't need the best equipment. You just need to know how to use the software. And you know what? I think that's where it lies. Work on your craft, work on your storytelling capabilities, and everything else will follow. It just, if you have a great microphone, but you can't tell a story worth crap, then you've got nothing. So make sure you're
Well, you got a
working
great
on the
microphone.
things. What?
I said you still got a great microphone.
Well, I mean, yeah, you still got a great microphone, and I guess you
Yeah,
can
so I mean,
talk
it's
trash
not.
to the kids in high def, but you won't get far in the narration scene if you're not constantly working on your craft. So that's just my opinion.
Ever evolving.
Ever evolving. So I want to thank you all for listening. Slumber, do you have any parting words for the podcast and YouTube listeners?
I feel like I talked so much for that first hour that I don't really have much to add. But yeah, I mean, just to repeat it one more time, just start with what you got. Have fun with it. And if you enjoy it and you want to upgrade down the line, do it. Nothing wrong with it.
Truer words never spoken. Well, this has been Dark Sessions, episode 2 in the bag. Equipment to start a narration channel, both physical and software. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. I hope that you will just start whatever you're wanting to start and learn things along the way. There's no harm in that. So get going on your dreams. Don't live to be 80 and 90 and wonder what if you started.
Let your dreams be dreams.
Just do it. That ends the podcast episode. Thank you once again. We'll see you next Friday at 9 p.m. for the live recording on YouTube. And then you can see it in the edited form shortly after on Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. So we'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.
And that's the end of the podcast version. So as it normally goes, this is where we turn it off and not turn it off. Sorry. This is where we just chat with you people in the chat. Do you have any questions for us? Anything you'd like to say? Anything you want clarification on? This is oft This is off script. It'll be on YouTube.
Script.
Like, yeah,
We
it'll be
can-
off. It's off script. It'll be on YouTube. Like this whole
Yeah.
stream and stuff like that. But for the edited version cut down, you can go and check out the podcast for that. So
Ryzine said, I use a cell phone with a toilet paper roll boom mic.
as anyone should.
Spookaria said that she started using her headset mic, which I know a lot of people that did that.
There are surprisingly good headset mics out there, though. I'm not
Yeah,
surprised
very
about
much.
that.
Especially like a good set of Astros. I mean, you can go a long ways with those.
Astros are, yeah, they're actually really good quality. Well, Ram, I don't know how to pronounce the middle name. Muerto Stories? Probably butcher that. I'm sorry. I see.
Muerto.
Welcome. Congratulations, first off, on starting your channel, because that's huge. What's your advice for those who have content that really takes a long time to produce? Ooh.
I don't think the advice would be much different.
No, stick at
Honestly.
it.
Yeah, just
Like,
have fun.
For reference, I uploaded a 3.5-hour video that was of edited video. So that probably took me about 8 hours of actual recording and editing, maybe even more. Probably closer to 9 or 10 hours of recording and editing. And that was very difficult. It took me like a couple weeks, maybe a few weeks to get through that. And it's not easy to stick with something that takes a long time to produce. But I think it circles back and depends on your why. Like, why are you doing it? For me, I was doing it because I enjoyed reading stories. I enjoyed creating content. I enjoyed what I did. So pushing through those times where I didn't really feel like doing the work, it made it a little bit more bearable. But
I do
also,
it for the clout.
he does. Yes, you obviously do it for
Personally.
the clout, which is great. I'm hoping to piggyback off that sometime. I mean, you're on this podcast for a reason. I'm just kidding, though. Don't get me wrong. I think try to figure out a way to speed up your process. Like, what part of your process, from finding stories to narrating them to editing them to uploading them, is there a particular process that takes the longest amount of time? And I will be reading chat if you're still here to figure out what that is. But for now, Slumber, looks like you have a fan in the chat.
Sojin?
You got a few of
Say
them.
that? Shout out to Sojin.
Looking for any other questions that I might have missed.
Seems like most people were just kind of jamming, man, just listening along.
I mean, they're not yelling at us, so I will take that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's nobody in chat like, you're wrong, this podcast is terrible, then we're doing all right.
Then we're doing all right.
Okay.
I don't know how I'm going to handle it if that happens, actually. I might just have to let you take the reins. Because I might
just
cry.
start yelling.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just
Okay, can I get someone to ban that person, please?
It's something we'll deal with eventually, but you know, that's all right. People are allowed to feel how they feel, and so far so good.
Yeah. So far so good.
So far.
I don't know what else to say. I feel like we've covered a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel the same way. Like we really kind of covered it all, I think.
Yeah, no more. Doesn't look like any more questions. So I guess this is where we will wrap up the live stream. It sounds like your dog's waking up too.
Yeah. Hold
Yeah,
up one
wait.
second.
Yeah. She knows. She knows the podcast's over and it's time to get rowdy. If I had some elevator music, I would do it. But did you guys enjoy
All
the
right, I'm
episode?
back. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Did you guys enjoy it? Learn something? You know what? This is probably not going to age well. I'm just going to sit here and be like, hey, did Did you enjoy it? And then the people watching it later, and there's like nothing going on. Like, he's just talking to himself.
You know, man, I think that's like one of the fun parts about being a creator is getting taken out of context a lot. You know, I've thought about this.
Okay.
Like, I've narrated a ton of stories that have parts that could just be taken so unbelievably out of context.
If someone just
Like,
decided to snip it a certain way.
yeah, like I'm so surprised. I really shouldn't say this live, but I'm so surprised nobody's ever just like, listened to a bunch of one narrator's videos, taken everything that could be taken out of context, snipped it all, and then just uploaded their own video of like Slumber reads but out of context or, something along those lines. I really shouldn't be giving that idea out there. I'm
It's
just
just,
surprised that it's never been done.
it's just like the worst of all of your stories just stitched together for some random like F words here and everything else there, and just sounds like you're ragging on someone or something.
Just clips all the breathing or something.
Just that's literally all the video is. It's just your breath noises. You
It's
know what?
like
Some people would
why
enjoy
Slumber
that.
should get better at editing, and then it's just a full like 10-minute video of nothing but breathing.
Yeah. I look forward to someone putting that up. If you do put it up, tag them, please. I want to hear this. You know what would be really weird though? Someone did that with
What's
all
that?
like your mouth noises.
Ooh, that'd be awkward.
Yeah,
That would take some patience.
I'd scream. Anyway, so no more questions coming in. So that's cool. It sounds like we covered a lot of things and did a lot of things right then. If we don't have very many questions, so I will take that. Thank you for joining us, though, on the live stream and listening to us record this live. I appreciate everyone's input and the fact that you sat through almost 2 hours of us rambling about equipment and everything else in between. That takes great patience on your part. But thank you very much for joining us. We will be live again next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know the topic yet. We'll figure that one out. But if you
We'll
want
have to
to,
brainstorm. Get something extra spicy.
I've got a few things laid out, like a few bullet points. But you can find the podcast, though, if for some reason you do want to listen to this again. Dark Sessions on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You could find the cut stuff. Like, I say cut, but it's literally chopping off the beginning and then the end like this, where we just talk to chat and stuff. So if you want a condensed version there, definitely check that out. If you'd like notifications on when we're going live, subscribe to the channel. Obviously, everyone in their dog with the channel is shouting that one out. But on Twitter at @dark_sessions is where you can kind of like interact with us and stuff. And we'll also post up like reminders and whatnot of when we're streaming. So just in case you want to catch it,
Because we all know YouTube notifications.
they can be hit or miss.
Bit
For sure.
iffy. Bit iffy.
Yeah, hit or miss for sure. With that all said, thank you guys for joining. Slumber, thank you for joining me on this one. Though I think I'm going to stop thanking you because you're a co-host, and I should just let you be as
No,
if you're
keep
a
thanking me,
guest.
dude. It's inflating my ego and it makes me feel good. Oh,
That was
man.
so dead straightforward. Okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. We're just going to end every stream with a thank you, Slumber. And then you're just going to be like, yeah.
Oh, he said it again.
Oh, yeah. One more time for the road.
It's hilarious.
All right, everyone. I think we've rambled on with this conclusion for long enough. I hope you have a great Easter weekend. Stay safe. And remember, respect social distancing guidelines, especially when you're following behind someone and they're only doing the speed limit on the dot. Remember, social distancing. Social distance yourself off their bumper.
Yeah, you don't want your car getting sick.
No, you don't, because that takes a lot to repair. And I don't even think they have tests for that, for cars. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. We'll see you next Friday. Peace out.
Night, everyone.